Hello everyone, and welcome to Hill Street. Today's story is It Takes the Light. If you end up enjoying this story, please leave a like. And if you enjoy hearing stories from me, please subscribe and become a resident of Hill Street and let me know how I'm doing in the comments. Now, let's get to this nightmare. I grab the rest of my gear and throw everything into the truck. In the passenger seat was my wife. Every year in the summer we visit tourist attractions, and this year we decided to explore a popular cave near the East Coast. The cave is notorious for making its explorers lose their path inside, so we put off making a trip there until we heard that there was more safety inside. The website we used told us that there were light bulbs set on the ceiling, branching out into paths. If we ever got lost, we could use them to get back. I put my keys in the ignition and start the engine. Now at the cave, Bianca and I put on our caving gear and walked down a path to the cave. The entrance seemed massive here on the base of the mountain. You would expect a giant to be sleeping inside, yet we make our way in anyway. Just as the website said, light bulbs on the ceiling branched out into 3 different paths. We both decide to go down the third path, as it was the least used path in the cave. At least an hour in, we encountered our first obstacle. In order to move forward, we needed to squeeze ourselves into a crevice. I dropped my gear behind me and slid in relatively easily. My wife hands me my bag and hers, preparing to enter. As she was in the middle of the crevice, a rumble consumed the cave. The ground underneath us cracked and broke apart, my wife dropping into the dark abyss that had formed. I screamed down, "Bianca! Jesus, Bianca!" No response. I grabbed my gear and set up a rope to climb down into the abyss, making sure to grab the small flashlight we packed. I threw the rope and began to move down. It's lucky that the rope was as long as it was, because the trip down took a few minutes while sliding down using gloves. There was a shallow lake underneath my feet. The water level almost touched my hips. "Bianca, where are you? This isn't funny." I shined the light around the cave, but the light could barely do anything here. It was like there was no walls to the cave, as if the only thing there was the water and the ground underneath. My light could barely pierce into the black void. Behind me, a loud splash of water. I spun around, unsure of its immediate direction. "Bianca, do that again. I'm coming." Another loud splash. I ran in the direction of the splashing, and it continued. It seemed like the splashes were getting farther. Then, I tripped on something. I get up and flash the light to the water. The body of my wife floated under the surface. I lift her up, seeing that she was missing her eyes and throat. Vomit pours out of my stomach and into the water. Another splash, this time behind me, and another splash ahead of me. I shine the light around me in the void, more and more splashing. The splashes getting closer and louder. Something pulls my wife's corpse further away, right out of my freezing hands. As I chase after the creature, the splashes stopped. I could only hear my wife being dragged away ahead of me. It stops in the darkness. I had come back to the rope somehow, but the splashing started again, just a small distance into the darkness. I moved forward, and this time the noises didn't move further away. I could hear it, a crunching and chewing noise. I shine my light ahead of me to a massive rock coming out of the water. My wife's corpse being eaten by many of the horrific creatures. They seemed human, but their bottom halves It resembled a fishtail. You could say they were mermaids, but they would easily traumatize any child. They had glowing yellow eyes, gills and fins all over their bodies. Their skin was pale and dark, and they had large sharp teeth jutting out of their mouths. Another smaller pair of arms underneath the first pair, and each and every one of the creatures that were eating my wife saw me, but they didn't care. Maybe I even saw one smile at me. I charged forward, yelling at the top of my lungs. A creature looks at me, quickly spinning and hitting me with their tail. It knocked the breath out of my lungs as I fell into the water. More of the creatures were below me, dozens of them. I struggled to get out of their grasp as they dragged me into deeper water. More and more of them swarmed at their newfound toy, bringing him deeper and deeper into the abyss. The water became impossibly deep and vast, as if it had no bottom. And out of the vast darkness below, a massive arm reaches out, pulling the man further. It squeezes him in its palm, feeding the creature with his blood as it spreads, turning the clear water red. As his body enters the overwhelming darkness, so does his flashlight, still operating. For a moment it flashes, revealing a massive humanoid head at the bottom. It opens its mouth, eating away at the man and his light, returning the abyss into darkness.